The last time someone called a human an ancient weapon, they ended up wiping out an entire species by accident. Commander Grail stood on the bridge of the Ulian starship Indomitable, its sleek form cutting through the void of space with effortless grace. The crew, a mighty assembly of the galaxy's finest warriors, scientists, and strategists, worked in disciplined silence. Grail's many eyes scanned the star map projected in front of him, each cluster of lights representing systems they had conquered or destroyed in their relentless quest for dominance. The Ulian High Council had given him an unusual directive this time: find and retrieve the ancient weapon known as human. Grail knew the legends, of course. Every Ulian child did, but the tales of humans were always so fantastical, so filled with contradictions and hyperbole, that Grail had dismissed them as myth. Yet, the Council insisted the humans were real and somewhere in the long-forgotten sector known as Terrara. "Commander, we are approaching the coordinates," reported Lieutenant Voran, his scales shimmering under the control panel's dim light. "Prepare for emergence," Grail ordered, "and keep the weapon systems on standby. We don't know what awaits us." The ship shuddered slightly as it exited hyperspace, revealing a small, unassuming yellow star with a handful of rocky planets in its orbit. The third planet, covered in a patchwork of blue and green, was their destination. Earth, scans indicated. Minimal technological activity reported, scientist CR noted, his elongated fingers dancing over the console. Primitive satellite networks. No significant energy readings. It appears to be a pre-interstellar society, just as the legend said. Gra muttered, "Prepare a landing party. We'll go down and see what we can find." The shuttle descended through the atmosphere with a roar, landing in a secluded area of what their scans had identified as a major landmass. As the ramp lowered, Grail, Voran, CR, and a small contingent of soldiers stepped onto the planet's surface. Grail took a deep breath, the air rich with oxygen and organic scents foreign to his world. Around them stretched a vast forest, trees towering high with foliage so dense it almost blotted out the sky. "Spread out," Grail commanded. "Look for any signs of this human weapon." Hours passed with no sign of advanced technology or any other hint that this planet once housed a feared species. Frustration began to set in among the soldiers, their initial excitement replaced by skepticism. "Commander, over here," called Voran, his voice echoing through the trees. Grail hurried to where Voran stood at the edge of a clearing. In the center, partially overgrown with vegetation, was a massive stone structure, its design unlike anything the Ulians had seen before. "Is this their fortress?" CR wondered aloud, scanning the structure with his equipment. "Possibly," Grail replied. "Or it could be a temple. Either way, we might find answers inside." The team approached cautiously, weapons at the ready. As they entered the structure, the air grew cooler, the light dimmer. The interior was adorned with strange symbols and images depicting beings that matched the descriptions of humans from the legends. Bipedal with 2 arms, 2 legs, and expressive faces. "Look at this," CR said, pointing to a mural. "It shows humans engaged in various activities: building, farming, fighting. And here, they're shown alongside advanced machinery and weapons. Do you think these are the ones?" Voran asked, tracing a clawed finger over an image of a human wielding a weapon that emitted a beam of light. "It's possible," Grail said. "We need to find more information. There must be some record, something that tells us where to find them." Deeper into the structure they went, until they reached a large chamber that seemed to serve as a repository of knowledge. Ancient texts and strange devices filled the room, some still active with a faint hum of power. CR activated one of the devices, and a holographic projection filled the air. A human figure appeared, dressed in simple clothing with an expression of calm determination. "Greetings, travelers," the figure said. "I am Archist Evans. If you are seeing this, it means that you seek the knowledge of our people. Be warned, the power of the humans is not to be taken lightly. Our history is filled with both great achievements and devastating mistakes." The projection changed, showing scenes of human history, wars, technological advancements, and exploration of their solar system. "Humans are resilient," the Archist continued. "Our strength lies not just in our technology, but in our adaptability, our capacity for both creation and destruction. The greatest weapon of the human race is not a device, but our very nature." Grail felt a shiver run through him. The legends had not prepared him for this. The humans were not mere warriors. They were a species capable of extraordinary feats, driven by an insatiable curiosity and a willingness to push boundaries. "Commander, what do we do now?" Vorin asked, his voice tinged with awe. "We continue our search," Grail said firmly. "This is just the beginning. We need to find an actual human, learn from them, understand their true potential." As they left the chamber, Grail couldn't shake the feeling that they were on the cusp of something monumental. The weapon they sought was unlike any other, and if the humans still existed, they would either be the galaxy's greatest ally or its most formidable enemy. But one thing was clear. The hunt for the ancient weapon called human had only just begun. The search for an actual human led the Ulian landing party deeper into the planet's wilderness. As days turned into weeks, the team meticulously explored ancient ruins, deciphered cryptic messages, and followed leads from fragmented holographic recordings. Each step forward seemed to raise more questions than answers. "Commander," CR reported one evening as they sat around a campfire, "I've analyzed more of the texts we found. It appears that the humans were capable of something extraordinary called improvisation. They adapted to any situation, often turning their greatest weaknesses into strengths." "Improvisation?" Grail mused. "In what context?" "In all contexts," CR said. "In warfare, science, survival. Their ability to innovate under pressure was unparalleled." Grail pondered this as he looked up at the night sky, the stars twinkling like distant beacons. "We need to find one," he said resolutely. "A living human. Only then can we truly understand what we're dealing with." The next morning, the team set out toward a mountainous region, following a lead from an ancient map that hinted at a hidden sanctuary. The terrain grew increasingly rugged, but the Ulians were undeterred. As they climbed higher, the air grew thin and the temperature dropped, but Grail and his team pressed on. After several days of arduous travel, they reached a plateau. In the distance, nestled against the mountain's base, was a small village. Smoke rose from chimneys, and figures moved about, tending to crops and livestock. "Is it possible?" Vorin whispered, barely able to contain his excitement. "Could there still be humans here?" "It looks like it," Grail said, his eyes narrowing. "But we need to be cautious. Approach slowly, weapons ready but not drawn. We don't want to startle them." As they made their way toward the village, the inhabitants took notice. They gathered at the edge of the settlement, watching the newcomers with a mix of curiosity and apprehension. Grail's translator buzzed to life, interpreting the murmured conversations. "Who are they? Where did they come from? Are they here to help us?" Grail stepped forward, raising his hand in a gesture of peace. "We come in peace," he announced. "We seek knowledge and understanding. We are looking for a human." The villagers exchanged puzzled glances. Finally, an elderly man stepped forward, leaning heavily on a wooden staff. His face was lined with age, but his eyes were sharp and clear. "I am the elder of this village," he said. "We are human, but what you seek is not found easily. Our ancestors left behind many mysteries, and not all of them have been uncovered." "Then perhaps you can help us," Grail said. "We need to find one who possesses the true essence of what it means to be human, as described in your ancient texts." The elder nodded thoughtfully. "There is one among us who might be what you seek. He lives as a hermit in the mountains, coming down only rarely for supplies. His name is Ethan." "Ethan," Grail repeated. "Can you take us to him?" The elder nodded. "I will guide you, but be warned. Ethan is different. He may not welcome visitors." The next day, the elder led Grail and his team up a narrow, winding path into the mountains. The journey was treacherous, but eventually they reached a small, secluded cabin. Smoke curled from the chimney, and the sound of chopping wood echoed through the trees. "Ethan," the elder called out as they approached. "You have visitors." A man emerged from behind the cabin, carrying an axe over his shoulder. He was tall and muscular, with a beard that framed his face. His eyes were piercing and intelligent, scanning the Ulians with a mix of suspicion and curiosity. "What do you want?" Ethan asked, his voice deep and wary. "We seek knowledge," Grail replied. "We have come from afar to learn about the true nature of humans. The ancient texts speak of your kind, of your strength, your creativity, and your resilience. We believe you may hold the key to understanding your species." Ethan looked at Grail and his team for a long moment, then slowly lowered his axe. "I have no answers for you," he said. "But if you're determined to learn, come inside. I'll tell you what I know." Inside the cabin, The air was warm, filled with the smell of wood smoke and the earth. Ethan sat down at a rough-hewn table and motioned for the Ulians to do the same. I've lived here alone for many years, Ethan began. The world is full of danger, and I've learned to rely on myself. Humans, we're not perfect. We're flawed, like any other species, but we have something that sets us apart. It's not about power or technology. It's about what we do when we're pushed to our limits. What we create when we have nothing left. That's the true strength of humanity. Grail listened carefully, his mind racing. Ethan's words were in line with what the hologram had shown, but they carried a depth that no recording could convey. This was the essence of what the humans were. Is this the weapon the council spoke of? Grail asked, his voice barely a whisper. Ethan smiled faintly. The weapon? Perhaps, but I wouldn't call it that. It's just who we are. Grail stood, his eyes filled with a newfound understanding. We will leave you in peace, Ethan, but your words will echo across the stars. The Ulians have much to learn from you. As they left the cabin, Grail's mind was flooded with thoughts of what humanity could offer. The galaxy was vast, and now, with this new knowledge, the Ulians had to decide what to do with the most powerful weapon they'd ever discovered.